Zeke Yaeger is a character of contradictions. He does some of the most heinous things in the entire series, and yet gives us reasons to sympathize with him. He's the war chief of the Marleyan Army, orchestrating and leading attacks against the innocent people of Paradis who, for the longest time, didn't know anything about their enemies and the outside world, and just wanted to survive. And yet, he does it all for the sake of peace. A peace that satisfies both sides of the coin. It would not be a stretch to say that realistically his idea to euthanize the Eldians by using the Founder's powers to make them sterile was the least extreme and most effective way of handling matters. However, he tramples on way too much for the sake of this peace. This proves that something about the way he goes after what he desires isn't normal. But his anatomy takes this into overdrive as he stands out even among the other Titan shifters because despite having only one Titan, that is the Beast Titan, he's able to mimic a fraction of the powers of the founding Titan. But what makes this possible? We're gonna get into it in this video. Who is Zeke Yaeger? Why was he destined to become a Titan? The son of Grisha Yeager and Dina Fritz, and the half-brother of Aaron Yeager, Zeke Yaeger was an Eldian of royal blood who was born in Liberio, or Marley's internment zone. During this time, his parents were part of the Restorationist army in Marley, with the rebel group being comprised of Eldians who were sick of the treatment they received at the hands of Marley, and by extension, the rest of the world. Due to this, they had but one goal: to restore Eldia as a war power. Well, Marley had retained 7 out of 9 Titan shifters following the Great Titan War and the subsequent seclusion of the majority of Eldians in Paradise Island under Karl Fritz. The royal family on the island kept the founding Titan. The Restorationists wished to acquire this Titan to destroy Marley and make Eldia the glorious and formidable empire it once was. Their actions and beliefs were backed up by them assuming Ymir, or the Founder, to be a benevolent godlike being, while the world spread the story that she was someone who had made a deal with the devil. Dina Fritz was the last royal Eldian in Marley, and the Restorationists had learned about requiring royal blood to access the power of the Titans. This resulted in Zeke practically being raised and bred to become a warrior in the Marleyan Army and infiltrating Paradise under the guise of destroying the island as part of the Paradise Island operation. However, his true objective was supposed to lie in getting access to the founding Titan and using its powers for the Restorationists' objectives. While every Eldian across Marley and the world outside Paradise grew up learning a gruesome and twisted truth of how Eldia had tormented the world and how the people in Paradise were nothing but devils due to the malevolent nature of their founder, Zeke was force-fed stories of Marley being the bad guy and Eldia being the scapegoat. Of course, both iterations were untrue, but there were no ways to prove either, which kept both the world outside radicalized against Eldians and the Restorationists radicalized against the world that hated them so much. The moment Zeke was born, Grisha seemed to be less excited about the fact that he had a son with his beloved wife, and more ecstatic about the fact that he had a son of royal blood, which meant that he would be able to access the powers of the founding Titan. Of course, they didn't know that due to Karl Fritz's vow of so-called peace, even a royal family member would never be able to utilize the true powers of the Founder. Needless to say, Zeke was always destined, or rather forced, to become a Titan shifter and a warrior, whether he himself liked it or not. His parents saw him less as an individual and more as the means that would take them to their end. How did Zeke become a Titan? Why was it so tragic? Sometime in the year 830, Marley announced the Warrior Program, where Eldian kids would be recruited into the Marleyan Army. The most capable ones would inherit the Titan shifters Marley had access to and, using those powers, fight in battles for Marley and, most importantly, become part of the Paradise Island operation that focused on reclaiming the founding Titan from the walls so that the island could never cause the rumbling. The outside world dreaded the catastrophic rumbling as Karl Fritz had used it as a threat to them before secluding his people to the island, which kept them unaware of the reality where Fritz's vow prevented the royal members from actually being able to cause the rumbling. Of course, a shifter with the founding Titan without royal blood would not even be able to use it in the first place. For the Warrior Program, the Marleyan Army intended to recruit Eldian kids who were around 5 to 7 years of age. With Zeke born in 825, it was the prime time for Grisha and Dina to enroll him in the army as a recruit. While the families of most recruits desired the status of becoming honorary Marleyans, the Yeager family didn't care about that and had their own goals, all of which were previously discussed. They just wanted Zeke to, first and foremost, be a spy for the Restorationists, and then do their bidding to restore Eldia as a world superpower. Zeke grew up with little love from his parents, who were almost always busy attending meetings with the Eldian Restorationists. He would be sent to Grisha's parents, where his grandfather would recount stories of how the Eldian race has tormented the world because that was the propaganda Eldians were fed to make them side against their people. This directly contrasted with everything Grisha would teach him, but Zeke was too young to deal with such heavy matters. Things got worse for him when his parents' routine absence led to them growing detached from Zeke. Although Dina wasn't as distant with her son, Grisha was a highly unavailable father who had minimal investment in his son's growth and emotions and only cared for his academics and his performance as a warrior candidate. Unfortunately, Zeke was never impressive as a warrior candidate. He could not keep up with his peers and was always behind them. This hardened his life outside his house as well, as the other candidates and his instructor would ostracize him for his lack of competency. However, he found his ray of sunshine after he met Tom Casaver, the Eldian warrior who held the Beast Titan, who was also a researcher in Titan science, working for the Marleyan Army. With Casaver, Zeke played a game of catch and was complimented on his pitching skills. This was the first time Zeke was being acknowledged positively for something. Being a kid and thrilled about his good experience, he tried to share it with his parents at home, but instead found them deep in a conversation with their fellow restorationist, Grease. He went on to eavesdrop and overheard his parents reassuring Grease that Zeke would one day be able to save Eldia. However, things hit rock bottom when Grisha and Dina attended one of the public training events where the warrior candidates were participating. They noticed how Zeke was worse than everyone else and began to crush the hopes of the Yeagers and disappointed them thoroughly. As Zeke noticed his parents, he saw that Grisha was frustrated as a result of his poor performance and stormed away from the field. That very night, Grisha and Dina argued over what they should do with Zeke due to his incapability. Meanwhile, Zeke cried in his room as a result of his parents' frustration and resentment towards him, and also because of the pressure he was being put through. To them, Zeke wasn't a person or even their son, but just a tool to use. During a subsequent game of catch with Casaver, the holder of the Beast Titan tried to cheer Zeke up as a result of what took place during the training event. Casaver, however, was not made aware of Zeke's parents being restorationists. He went on to claim how Zeke wanting to become a warrior was a stupid idea, which made Zeke very curious as he didn't expect a warrior to criticize the program. Naturally, he asked why Casaver opted to become a warrior, only to learn that Casaver was only interested in getting the opportunity to study Titans from a scientific standpoint. Not long after, Zeke overheard a conversation among the Marleyan authorities where they claimed to be closing in on the location of the Eldian restorationists. Zeke knew that if his family got outed, it would send all of them, including his grandparents, to the borders of Paradis, where they would be turned into pure Titans. To save them, he revealed this to his parents and begged them to bring their rebellious activities to a halt, but Grisha didn't pay any heed to him. He continued to assert that their actions were necessary for the betterment of Eldia, which led to a desperate Zeke bringing up the taboo topic, Zeke Yaeger. He inquired if Grisha would be okay with his son falling to the same fate as Zeke, who was fed to the dogs by a Marleyan soldier for crossing the confines of Liberia without permission. Instead of working in Zeke's favor, this aggravated Grisha even more, as he claimed that they had to win back their rights for the very reason that no Eldian ever would meet the same fate as Zeke. Unable to keep up with his father's aggression, stubbornness, and radicalized mindset, a distraught and drained Zeke claimed that Zeke would have never died in the first place had Grisha not taken her out of Liberia, which basically meant that had Grisha just followed the rules that were set by Marley, he would have led a better and happier life. Zeke couldn't reveal the truth of his situation to anyone, including his grandparents. Emotionally drained from the altercation, he revealed everything to the one person he trusted most, Casaver, who was gradually becoming a father figure to Zeke. While he had accepted the fact of being sent to Paradis as a pure Titan after his parents were outed, Casaver showed him a way out. He told Zeke that if he turned his parents in, it would save his life as well as those of his grandparents, which was far better than all 5 of them being jeopardized. Casaver also spoke about the mistreatment he had received from his parents as Zeke protested against the idea, claiming that he experienced strife from a very young age due to his parents forcing their beliefs on him and not caring about his feelings. Ultimately, Zeke revealed the truth about Grisha and Dina's allegiance to the Marleyan authorities, ratting them out and gaining a reputation among the army for being loyal to Marley. Meanwhile, his parents and the other restorationists were in utter shock and sent to the border of Paradis to be turned into pure Titans. The entire procession took place while no one was aware of Zeke having royal blood, as it was meant to be a secret. This lack of knowledge about Zeke's true heritage saved him, as he was sent to be raised by his grandparents. The Marleyans would have most likely killed him had they known about his royal bloodline. Years passed by with Zeke being a warrior candidate and growing closer to Casaver, now living with a comparatively better and more secure lifestyle. However, he blamed himself for sending his parents to their deaths, and although he disagreed with their extreme ways, he held sympathy for the Eldians and wished for them to be free someday. For this reason, he wanted to operate from behind the scenes for the liberation of his race, but in his own less extreme ways. During a game of catch and a long conversation with Tom Casaver, the researcher revealed to Zeke that the founding Titan could not only alter the memories of the subjects of Ymir, but also change their bodily compositions. This gave Zeke the idea that if the founder's powers could be used to make Eldians sterile, the race would die out in approximately a century, which would minimize and eventually wipe out the threat they posed to the world while getting to live their own lives in peace without a mass genocide awaiting either side. Hearing this, Ksaver went on to reveal the truth about his lost family to Zeke, where he had a child with a Marleyan woman who had killed not just herself, but also their son after she found out about him being Eldian. Having lost his family, Ksaver was never able to snap out of the trauma, and rightfully so, and went on to lament over his own birth as an Eldian. Seeing him in that state saddened Zeke, who vowed to take back the Founder from Paradis and use its powers to sterilize the Eldian race. It is possible that Ksaver knew of Zeke's royal blood, although it was never explicitly mentioned. When Zeke turned 17, he inherited the Beast Titan from Ksaver, whose 13-year-old tenure had almost ended, thus becoming a warrior in the year 842. Following Ksaver's passing, as Zeke had to eat him in order to get the beast, he kept his glasses as a memento for his mentor and father figure. What makes Zeke's Beast Titan unique? Why can it talk? The Beast Titan appears for the very first time in Season 2 and sets itself apart from every other Titan, be it pure, abnormal, or shifter. He was first spotted by Mike Zacharias, who was shocked to see a 17-meter Titan that had its body covered in fur. Paradise Island also didn't have monkeys, so the people didn't know what a monkey or ape looked like, which led to Mike perceiving Zeke's form as a beast, which wasn't untrue. Across generations, every Beast Titan represented a different animal. We get a glimpse of that during the final battle and during the opening credits of Season 2, as we see the monkey-like beast running alongside dinosaurs and whales. There's also the Okapi that Mikasa and Annie kind of argued over during the final battle, as Mikasa had no idea what an Okapi was. In one of Zeke's flashback scenes, he was seen playing with a monkey plushie that looked like his Beast Titan. Combined with his pitching skills, which were more functional with the ape-like anatomy due to the long limbs and good grip, Zeke's Titan had manifested as an ape. The next interesting thing was the beast's ability to speak, which rendered Mike speechless, ironically, because although he knew about the existence of intelligent Titans, courtesy of Eren and Annie, he had never seen a Titan speak before. Moreover, there's no solid reason as to why Zeke's Beast Titan could speak. However, we do have some theories, and it all relates to the Founder being able to toy with the bodily compositions of the subjects of Ymir, and Ymir being the one who created every Titan from scratch in the Paths. Because pure Titans and aberrants did not achieve much other than mindlessly eating people, many of them often had poorly built anatomical structures because they didn't need to be perfect. When we witnessed Reiner's Titan in the second episode, it was evident that it was a lot better as a whole than every other Titan around, which makes sense considering the fact that the Armored Titan is a shifter. When we saw the Attack Titan for the first time, it was significantly more well developed in structure than every Titan around it. This proves that Ymir creates the shifter to be much better than the average Titan. However, there are curious cases of certain pure Titans having unique anatomies or at least decently developed anatomies, with Rod Reese following the former spot and Dina's Smiling Titan filling the latter. In both cases, the human was of royal blood. This brings us to the fact that Titans, including most shifters, couldn't talk because they lacked the necessary mouth structure to be able to talk properly. However, Zeke's Titan was an eloquent speaker, which could be due to Zeke having royal blood as a shifter, which led to Ymir making a Titan that could speak perfectly. Other Titan shifters who could speak would be Lara Tiber's Warhammer Titan, Peak's Cart Titan, and Ymir's Jaw Titan. The Warhammer was an eloquent speaker like Zeke, and while she was no royalty, she was still an Eldian of noble blood since she belonged to the Tiber family. Meanwhile, Peak and Freckled Ymir did not belong to special bloodlines, and probably could talk a bit just because they could. The Founder may or may not have intended to make them capable of speech, and it could have been an accident, making them slightly capable of talking. Does Zeke have access to the Founding Titan? How can he create Titans? Zeke never had access to the Founding Titan, at least not until he came into physical contact with Eren. However, being of royal blood, he had abilities that the average Titan shifter just didn't. His spinal fluid could be used and injected into subjects of Ymir to turn them into pure Titans. Food and beverages spiked with his spinal fluid when consumed by an Eldian could turn that person into a pure Titan upon hearing Zeke's Titan roar. This was somewhat similar to the unleashed ability of the Founder, who could turn every subject of Ymir into a Titan. Unlike Zeke, however, the Founder was not required to inject any spinal fluid due to it having absolute control over the paths and the coordinate. With his roar, Zeke could also control the pure Titans to a great extent, making them run, stop, eat, and act according to his command. He could turn normal Titans into abnormals and abnormals into normals. He could make them operate at night when pure Titans had lost their vitality in the absence of sunlight so long as there was a full moon. This also mimicked the powers of the Founder, albeit to a smaller extent, since the Founder had absolute control not just over mindless Titans, but also the Shifters. Annie probably received Zeke's spinal fluid to mimic his ability to control Titans. However, since she wasn't Eldian royalty and a direct descendant of Ymir Fritz, she could only summon them. She couldn't control them like Zeke could. This very spinal fluid also managed to make Falco's Jaw Titan unique, as Falco had eaten Porco Galliard to obtain the powers of the Jaw. However, he was transformed into a pure Titan in the first place as a result of the spiked wine making its way into Falco's mouth as a result of his being hit with that bottle. This created a curious case where Falco was able to manifest a portion of the Beast Titan's abilities and turn into a falcon-like bird that could fly and was used as transportation by the Alliance. So, not only has Zeke's Titan been involved in creating and controlling other pure Titans, but it also seems to spice up existing Titan shifters. How Zeke's 2 Titan powers make him the most abnormal Titan shifter and a one-man army. While most Titan shifters can take on several opponents at once, killing many other pure Titans and soldiers by itself, no shifter embodies the role of being a one-man army more than Zekes Beast Titan. Firstly, he can charge not just by himself, but with a horde of pure Titans, transforming them from humans into mindless beasts with his command, thanks to his royal blood. As mentioned before, he can control these Titans the way he pleases due to them having ingested his spinal fluid in some way. Because we mostly see him control pure Titans who have been transformed as a result of Zeke's spinal fluid, he cannot make Titans who lack his DNA obey his commands. But that's not an issue because, since the second season, a huge majority of the mindless Titans that are encountered had his spinal fluid within them. Because of size, numbers, and the ability to regenerate, these Titans pose a huge threat to opponents despite the fact that they can be taken down by a clean strike to the nape. Right before the action began in the Return to Shiganshina arc, we saw Reiner transform into the Armored Titan, following which Zeke suddenly appeared in his Beast Titan form alongside an entire troop of pure Titans, which put the Survey Corps at a huge disadvantage. During the late-night battle at Utgard Castle, Zeke did not engage in fighting, but he was able to handicap the Survey Corps by bringing the pure Titans to the location and allowing them to move with the sunlight reflected as a result of the full moon. Up until then, it was believed that Titans couldn't operate at night, but Zeke's abilities made him capable of using pure Titans as a result of the moon. The second reason why Zeke is a one-man army would be his pitching skills. He grabs boulders with his Titan palms, crushes them into tiny bits, and throws them at his enemies. His superbly accurate aim manages to take out many people at once, which was once again shown in its greatest glory in the battle to retake Wall Maria. Not only did Zeke manage to use his sniper-level rock-throwing ability to block the entrance for the horses to pass through, but he shot the stones into Shiganshina from over the outer ring of Wall Maria, taking out horses and many soldiers. This left the battleground a bloodied mess. When Erwin led the suicide charge to distract Zeke for Levi to kill him, Zeke's pitching took out almost every single soldier and new recruit. He expressed his ecstasy by referring to the massacre he caused as a perfect game. This was because he was able to take out all of his opponents without ever having to intercept. Of course, he didn't know that Flock had luckily managed to survive, Erwin was hanging by a thread, and the charge was a planned diversion created for Levi to take him down. However, it still doesn't minimize how he almost single-handedly took the win. We saw this again during Marley's battle against the Mid-East Allied forces where Zeke's pitching took out Navy warships, causing them to explode. Zeke's other ace up his sleeve would be his intellect, which allows him to deduce what he should take out first. Him blocking the gate to not let the horses pass in Shiganshina was one such moment that led to Nile Doc thinking that Zeke had missed his shot. This is until Erwin pointed out how he had blocked the passage for the horses, thus crippling the locomotion of the Survey Corps. We see him combine his intelligence with his Titan controlling ability in Season 4, where he pretended to side with the Survey Corps against Marley while being imprisoned within the Fortress of Giant Trees for Levi to cut him down. He spiked Marleyan wine with his spinal fluid and allowed it to be spread across the military in Paradis. So, when push came to shove, such as when Levi began to chase after him, Zeke was able to turn all of Levi's subordinates who were present at the moment into pure Titans. He did something similar during the War for Paradis arc when the likes of Dot Pixis turned into Titans, engaging the core and the Marleyan forces and allowing Zeke to come into contact with Eren. Now, it's not like Zeke is the only Titan shifter who has more than one power, because Annie could mimic the abilities of several Titans. Most shifters could selectively harden, and Eren had 3 Titans within him, allowing him to send future memories to the past wielders of the Attack Titan, generate hardened weapons as the Warhammer Titan, and control Titans like Zeke on coming into contact with Dina Fritz's Smiling Titan. However, both of Zeke's powers possess the ability to solo his opponents, which is only aggravated by his intelligence, as he knows what targets he should take after to secure himself the win. Why is Zeke the most important character in Attack on Titan from an anatomical standpoint? Grisha wasn't wrong when he claimed that Zeke was special from the moment he was born, because he very much was. This mirrors how Carla saw Eren, as she claimed that Eren was special because he was born into this world. While Eren was special because of his inherently freedom-driven personality, his half-brother Zeke was special because of his anatomy, since he was Eldian royalty. But let's break it down a bit. Modern-day Eldians, most of whom were subjects of Ymir as a result of the Eldian Empire force breeding with existing subjects to make Eldians capable of turning into Titans, were, in some way or form, related to Ymir Fritz because of the aforementioned reason. This allowed Ymir, as the coordinate, to alter their anatomies and memories, and it allowed the people to gain access to the power of the Titans if they happened to ingest the spinal fluid of Fritz's descendants. But in most cases, the connection was only strong due to the paths and not because of strong blood connection. It was only the direct descendants of Ymir Fritz who could use the powers of the founding Titan and become a godlike figure for Eldians. Following Karl Fritz's vow of peace, however, these descendants would be shackled in the realm of the paths after becoming the founding Titan. This created a situation where no one could access the power of the founder, because members of the royal family were prevented from doing so, and non-members couldn't even manifest those powers. Having delved into Titan science for a long time though, Tom Cassava was able to find a loophole in the game. He technically should not have known about the king's vow, but it is possible that years of analysis and instances such as Karl Fritz altering the anatomies of Eldians to save them from a plague led him to his correct conclusion. He then told Zeke that a wielder of the founding Titan had to be in contact with a Titan shifter who had descended from the royal family for them to gain access to the founder's true powers. This created the basis for Zeke and Eren to use each other to bypass the vow in the paths in Season 4. When Eren Yeager got the Attack Titan and the Founding Titan, he could only manifest the former due to him not being of royal blood. However, he did get a minimal amount of access to the Founder's abilities or memories every time he came into contact with an Eldian of royal blood. Because Historia was just royalty but not a Titan, Eren could only peer into the memories of the Founding Titan of the past, most notably Frida Reese. When he came into contact with Dina Fritz, he got the Founder's ability to control Titans, allowing him to command the pure Titans around him to attack Dina and later Reiner. This was possible because although Dina was no shifter, she was still a Titan. Zeke, on the other hand, was both of royal blood and a Titan shifter, making him the perfect person for Eren. With the two of them being related, there was also greater personal motivation for Zeke to cooperate with Eren because he believed that Eren must have suffered as a result of a rough childhood imposed on him by Grisha, making Zeke empathize with his younger brother. Of course, until the two of them memory hopped, Zeke didn't know that Grisha had raised Eren with love and affection. With Zeke and Eren coming together when the former grabbed Eren's decapitated head after it was shot off by Gabi, Zeke's royal blood gave Eren the necessary access to the paths. While Zeke was shackled there as a result of Karl Fritz's vow of peace, Eren could move around as he pleased since his lack of Fritz's lineage gave him a certain level of freedom within the paths. Everything Eren did as a result of gaining access to the Founder's abilities, such as seeing alternate situations across alternate timelines, causing the rumbling, and ultimately wiping out the power of the Titans, was only possible because of Zeke's anatomy. Of course, Eren is the more important character, with him being the protagonist, but what made Eren so special wasn't his body, it was his personality. Anatomically, however, Eren could have been replaced by any other Eldian Titan shifter who was alive, and he would have gotten access to the paths on coming into contact with Zeke. On the other hand, Zeke was the only one of his kind, being the only Eldian of royal lineage outside the walls and the only Titan shifter with royal blood among all the Eldians and subjects of Ymir. Marvelous verdict! What's unfortunate for Zeke is how he could never bypass his destiny of being a tool. He was traumatized as a child because his father saw his royal blood as a tool to dethrone Marley and rethrone Eldia. Later, he operated on his own terms for his own desires and yet again became a tool for his younger brother due to his royal blood. It's almost as if he's a very fleshed out and characteristically developed plot device, but we don't often feel bad for plot devices. With that, today's video comes to an end. What did you think of Zeke? Did you enjoy this video? If so, then don't forget to like and comment down below. And until next time, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.